The fork made a small, nervous cry when it grazed my plate, a sound so thin I might have missed it if the house weren't holding its breath. The turkey steam curled around my face, warm and herb-sweet, and somewhere in the living room the old clock my husband loved clicked its slow heartbeat toward another hour. I shouldn't have noticed any of it, but when dread moves in, every sound is a messenger. My granddaughter, Lily, was on the end of the table with her tablet tucked like a book against her ribcage, the corner of its case cracked in a leaf-shaped fracture I'd been meaning to fix. My son, Daniel, poured gravy with the care of a man carrying gasoline past a candle. His wife, Marissa, perfect hair, perfect teeth, the gold knot bracelet that never left her wrist, watched me the way a cat watches a closed door. The mashed potatoes were a soft snowfield in a bowl the size of a small planet. The candles flickered cheerfully, innocent of what they were lighting. "Mum, can I get you more cranberry?" Daniel asked, and the clock answered him instead. Click. The overhead light hummed, vibrating a little against the ceiling like it wanted to confess something. "I'm fine," I said, and felt my voice touch the rim of the room and come back to me smaller. He smiled, those same dimples he had when he was 8, and set the gravy boat down, knuckles white around the handle. Somewhere under the table, Lily's shoe tapped once, then stilled. A sound like rain whispered along the windows. Not yet, I thought. Not yet. We'd seen clouds all afternoon rolling like heavy grey sheep, but they'd held back like polite guests lingering at the threshold. "So," Marissa said, placing her napkin with surgical precision on her thigh, "toasts." Her smile didn't touch her eyes. "Let's do toasts." I always worry when people suggest formality for something that's already natural. You don't announce warm, you don't schedule love. Still, I lifted my glass the way everyone else did, the sparkling cider bubbling like it was trying to get a word in. "I'll go first," Marissa said quickly. She stood, her gold bracelet flashing, to family, to tradition, to knowing your place and respecting boundaries. She looked at me when she said the last 2 words, soft as a knuckle wrapped in velvet. The room went a little colder. Daniel tried an awkward chuckle and Lily looked at her lap. The clock clicked again. I could have sworn it was louder now. I kept my face peaceful. My therapist told me once, quiet isn't the opposite of strength, it's one of its forms. So I took a sip and found cinnamon in the bubbles. "To second chances," I said when it was my turn. "To listening even when it's hard. To remembering why we're here." I watched Daniel's jaw loosen with relief, just a little. Marissa's smile did a strange twitching thing, then smoothed. "Beautiful," she said, and the words snapped like icicles. Throughout dinner I noticed tiny, out-of-place details the way you do when you sense a storm but can't yet name the wind. The back door deadbolt was turned so the oval point faced up, which is not how Daniel keeps it. The serving spoon for the stuffing had been swapped for the one with the hairline crack. Marissa hates cracked things. And Lily kept touching the edge of her tablet with one finger the way she used to stroke her blanket when she was 3. That finger was tremoring. I opened my mouth to ask her if she was okay, and Marissa beat me to it. "Lily, sweetheart, elbows off the table. Show Grandma your good manners." Lily tucked her elbows, cheeks flushing. The hum of the overhead light grew fatter with sound. "Is it broken?" I thought, and almost stood to check it, because practical tasks can be lifeboats. Then Daniel cleared his throat. "Mum," he said, and panic licked my skin. He probably only meant to say something ordinary, ask me about the pie or the parade we watched that morning, but the way he looked past me instead of at me told another story entirely. He wasn't afraid of me. He was afraid of what looking at me might pull out of him. "I brought the pumpkin pie you like," I said, a little too quickly. "The one with the brown sugar crust." "Yes," he said, forcing brightness. "Great, thanks." And then we ate in that carefully cheerful way people do when the floorboards are thin and the words below them are heavier than they should be. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, A like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. The thing about Thanksgiving is, it's supposed to be a cushion. Even the clatter of plates is friendly if you let it be. But sound is a teacher, and it taught me in the span of one breath that we had crossed that soft, invisible line between normal and not. A chair scraped behind me, the sharp, high squeal of wood scolded across tile. "Marissa?" I turned. She was already standing. Her smile had turned to something carved. "I think there's something we should discuss," she said calmly. "Before dessert." "Now?" Daniel whispered, colour draining. "Please don't." "It's my house," she said lightly, patting his shoulder in a way that said ownership, not comfort. "We can handle honest conversations at our table." She faced me with a bright, casual expression people use right before they drop a tray of glasses. "Margaret, I asked you very clearly not to bring over that envelope." I blinked. "What envelope?" "See? I hadn't brought an envelope. I'd brought a pie, a container of roasted carrots with orange zest, and a small foil-wrapped package holding the embroidered hand towels my mother made. Tradition, like a good luck charm. But an envelope. "The one in your bag," she went on, eyes flicking toward my purse by the sideboard. "The one you showed Lily." Lily's head bowed an inch like someone had put a crown made of stones on it. "I didn't show Lily anything," I said gently. "My bag has just regular things." I glanced at it, surprised at myself. Had I put an envelope in there? I opened it earlier, pulled out a lipstick, a travel comb, a packet of tissues with tiny snowmen. No envelope. "This is ridiculous," Daniel muttered. "Marissa, can we not do this right now?" Marissa's hand fluttered, and for the first time that evening I saw something underneath her groomed composure. It wasn't anger. It was fear wearing anger as a coat. "You always say later," she said to him. Not to me. And later never comes. She pushes, and you let her. She asks, and you give. Enough, Daniel. The clock clicked, faster somehow. I realized my heartbeat had synced to it. "I'm not pushing," I said softly. "I'm here to eat dinner with my family." Marissa's laugh was little and bright, like a bell rung too hard. "Family," she said. "Right." Her eyes shone. "What do you want, Margaret? To move in again? To replace me like you did those months after your surgery when you made this house a shrine to your grief? To take Lily to your side of the story, whispering little narratives, making yourself look like the wise, wronged matriarch?" She stepped closer with every accusation until her perfume, white flowers and something metallic, dimmed the smell of turkey. "You are not the centre of this home." The word "not" landed like a tack under my heel. I didn't move. "No," I said, calm. "I am not. I am just the grandmother who loves Lily, and the mother who loves Daniel." Daniel's eyes filmed. He pressed his lips together and stared at a point just beyond everyone's heads, a plane where no real objects exist. "Don't," he whispered hoarsely. "Please." Lily's foot tapped again beneath the table. I heard it this time. 1, 2, 3. She never did that without reason. "Marissa," I said, keeping my voice low, "this is a holiday. Whatever you're feeling, we can talk in the kitchen, the porch, anywhere but—" She moved faster than anyone expecting a conversation would move. The slap felt like a warm, flat wave crashing against my cheek, then breaking, then taking something with it when it pulled away. For 1 second, all the other sounds, the lights hum, the clock, the faint rain beginning outside, disappeared into the ringing silence left in the wake of skin meeting skin. Pain isn't always sharp. Sometimes it's a bloom that opens too quickly. I tasted copper. The room gasped as one creature. Daniel's chair shot backward and hit the wall. The candles flickered hard. The flame nearest me guttered, a tiny man knocked down and struggling up again. Lily whispered, "Grandma." And I turned, not away from Marissa, but toward that small voice that has rerouted my life more times than the words should be able to. "Apologize," Daniel said to his wife, voice low and serious in the way I remember from when he'd warned a teenage friend not to touch the toolbox. "Apologize. Now." Marissa's chest rose and fell like she'd sprinted. Her eyes darted to my purse again, then to Lily's tablet, then to the window where the first strings of rain were beading. Her hand, the one with the gold knot bracelet, trembled. Trembling is honest, even when people try to hide it. "She provoked me," Marissa said thinly. She came here to— "I came here with a pie," I said, and realized I was still holding my fork, ridiculous little piece of metal that it was, like it might negotiate peace if I asked nicely. Heat surged up my face, dual from the slap and from the slow-burn anger I keep in the hearth when the house gets cold. I stood, felt the chair legs kiss the floor goodbye and the world tilt a degree. "You don't get to put your hands on me." Quiet. Not the opposite of strength. A form of it. Not now. Not ever. Rain ticked a little louder on the glass, 100 small fingernails drumming secrets. The hum in the light crescendoed, then steadied. I noticed a single breadcrumb on the tablecloth near Lily's arm, how it glued itself in place, refusing to surrender to gravity. Marissa swallowed. Her jaw worked. "Then leave." She looked relieved when she said it, like a puzzle piece had clicked. "If you don't want this to escalate further in front of Lily, leave, Margaret." She turned to Daniel. "She can take her things and go. Tonight." Lily's shoe tapped twice again. Daniel closed his eyes and his face did a dangerous thing. It emptied. I'd seen that expression in him once before, the day he signed his first mortgage. A look that says I'm about to do something too big for me, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't know what else to do. "Mum," he said, and it was the way he said Mum when he was small and running out of breath on a soccer field. "Please, let's cool down." "I'm cool," I said, touching my cheek. It burned under my fingers. Skin tells on you. "I'm cool, Daniel. But I will not pretend this is okay." It would have been tidy, perhaps, to pick up my purse right then, to walk to the door, to wrap my calm like a shawl around my shoulders and step out into the storm. It would have set a precedent. It might have broken something I wasn't ready to fix. But tidy is for napkins. Families are not tidy. That was when Lily stood. She didn't push the chair back the way kids usually do. She lifted it with both hands the way Daniel taught her so the legs wouldn't scrape and cry. She set it down gently and looked at me first, then her father, then, only then, at her mother. Lily is 11, the age when truth starts getting heavy. "I have something to say," she said, and her voice did not wobble. A quiet bead of water rolled down the window like a tear and caught the candlelight at each notch of its journey. "Not now," Marissa hissed. "Sit." "It's about what Grandma showed me," Lily said, putting the quotes around, showed with her tone, not her fingers, because she's learned from me how to obey the letter of a command while honouring its spirit. "At Grandma's house when I helped her pack the extra blanket in her trunk this afternoon." "Lily," Daniel warned, gentle and worried in the same breath. The hum in the light crept higher, the sound now a tight wire I could pluck with my attention. Outside the rain brightened and multiplied. Its smell came through the draught near the door, wet leaves and cold iron and the faint sourness of the street. I thought, absurdly, of the towels. I'd embroidered, the tiny wheat sheaves in gold thread, the small initials in the corner. I had folded them with my mother's motions, muscle memory older than my anger. Misleading clues arrange themselves while you're busy surviving. I had noticed the deadbolt earlier. I had noticed the cracked serving spoon. I had noticed Lily's finger tapping the tablet's edge like it could tell her pulse to slow down. I saw all the puzzle pieces, but not the picture. Not yet. "Enough," Marissa said, and reached for Lily's wrist. Lily stepped back so cleanly, the movement looked like choreography. She placed the tablet on the table and slid it toward the center, right onto the white cotton runner Marissa loved to call her canvas. The tablet woke as if it had been listening all evening for its cue. The lock screen glowed. Lily's thumb hovered, then pressed. Her face, reflected faintly in the glass, resolved into steadiness. Her voice was small in volume but not in power. She looked straight at her mother and said 5 words, clear and even, that fell into the room like a bell in a cathedral. "Should I play the video?" Marissa went white so fast you could almost hear it, like winter sweeping across an open field. The bracelet on her wrist glinted, but her hand had gone still in the air, beautiful and useless. The clock clicked. The rain lifted its voice. Daniel whispered my name, but I couldn't answer him. I was watching Marissa's face, and in the space of a heartbeat something vast and invisible tilted, as if the house itself had just learned a secret about itself, and didn't know what to do with it. The tablet's screen lit the room like a small moon, and for a heartbeat, everyone stared at their own reflection in it. Tiny, warped people hovering over a rectangle of light. Lily's thumb touched the glass. A file opened. The rain found its voice against the eaves, steady and patient, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment to begin. The video wasn't shaky. Lily holds cameras like she holds spoons, straight and careful. But this wasn't something she'd filmed. It was our back porch cam mirrored to her tablet. The frame showed the narrow slice of my house from the kitchen door to the hedge, the one with the little ceramic robin tucked at the roots. It was late afternoon. The light lay flat and pale like a tired sheet. The deadbolt turned with a slow, deliberate twist until its oval point faced up, the way it was when I arrived for dinner and told myself not to overthink it. Then the door swung inward, and Marissa stepped into my kitchen like she owned the air. Her hair was pinned. Her bracelet caught a shard of light, and she moved with that fast, clean efficiency she saves for other people's spaces. She didn't hesitate. She went straight to the counter by the sugar jar, slid open the drawer where I keep dish towels, and reached beneath the stack. When her hand came out, it was holding a thick manila envelope. She didn't look inside. She flipped it once like you do to gauge weight, slipped it into her tote, smoothed the towels as if making a bed, and left. The deadbolt turned down as the door closed, but a beat later, the lock popped back, and the oval point settled upright. A nervous tick in the hardware you'd only notice if you were listening for small things like I always am. The video ended. No one exhaled. The overhead light hummed. A droplet crawled down the nearest window and caught a candle flame, turned to amber, then fell. "Why?" Daniel said finally, voice hoarse as if words had to scrape their way out. "Were you in Mum's house, Marissa? Why do you have a key?" Marissa said nothing at first. Her mouth opened and closed, and for the first time since she'd married my son, I saw the raw animal underneath the social polish. Not cruelty, not yet, just fear. Bright, blinding fear the size of a room. She reached for the tablet. Daniel's hand flashed out and caught her wrist mid-air. "Don't," he said. The gold knot bracelet shivered against his fingers. "Answer her," Lily whispered. She wasn't being a smart aleck. She was making a request from a small, brave place inside her. Marissa could have lied smooth. She's talented at that particular origami. But lies have footprints, and the video had tracked mud across the canvas runner already. "I went to make sure she didn't bring it," Marissa said, chin up, voice flat. "The envelope, the one that could ruin this family." She yanked her wrist free and snapped at Lily like a match head. "Turn that off." The heat of the slap still spread across my cheek in a slow red tide. I kept my voice quiet. "What's in the envelope?" "You know very well," she shot back. "Papers. A petition. The kind of thing a meddling grandmother files when she can't stand that a child is being raised with rules." Daniel blinked like he'd been struck by invisible rain. Petition for what?" "For custody," Marissa said. The word thudded onto the table. The room tilted a degree. The envelope I had not brought and did not have in my purse or my car suddenly had a shape and a temperature in everyone's mind. Heavy, warm from a hiding place, capable of wrecking a dinner and a marriage. "That's not true," I said. and watched truth be such a small animal compared to the story fear had just grown wings on. I would never try to take Lily from you. You know that. I don't go behind backs. Lily looked at me and didn't blink. Grandma, show them. I frowned. Show what, sweetheart? Her finger tapped the tablet's edge once, twice. What's really in it, she said. I saw the corner, in the tote, before we left for dinner. She swallowed. It's not about me. Marissa's face did the going white thing again. Then she moved. She didn't go for Lily this time. She went for my purse by the sideboard, as if changing props could change the script. Daniel got there first. He grabbed it and held it to his chest. For a ridiculous second, I noticed the damp ring underneath my pie dish on the wood and thought, I should have put a trivet down. Sit, he told Marissa, and his voice wasn't loud, but it had the weight of all the roofs he has replaced with his own hands. She didn't sit. She reached for the purse again. He stepped back. The chair leg behind him caught, scooted, screeched across tile, and in the small chaos of wood and breath and the rain learning our windows by heart, the tablet slipped. Lily didn't gasp. She is her father's child, and she knows you catch before you react. She hooked it to her chest just before it would have met the floor. The case's cracked corner spread its little leaf-shaped fracture a millimetre further like a vine, and somehow that tiny damage returned every one of us to the original point. Something had been breaking long before tonight. The doorbell chimed. The sound rang through the house in 3 soft tones, like a polite stranger clearing a throat. For half a breath, relief moved across Marissa's face, interruption as lifeline. But then she realized what interruptions often are, mirrors held up too suddenly. Stay, Daniel told all of us. He walked to the foyer with my purse clutched like a precious thing he didn't know whether to hate or protect. I heard the what of his whisper, and the ah of his breath when he saw whoever stood on the porch. He came back with a slim figure in a damp coat. The woman removed her hood. She had the complexion of people who work in offices with too much air conditioning, and the brisk movements of those paid by the hour. Sorry for the intrusion, she said, looking at Daniel, then at me with sober, practiced eyes. I'm from the pediatric clinic. We left messages. We need a quick signature from Lily's legal guardians for her allergist referral. It was supposed to be sent last week. Someone said we could catch you all together here. Marissa made a small sound. Human systems, with their forms and stamps, will arrive right when an untruth can't hold any more weight. Daniel gestured mutely to the table. The woman's gaze flicked to Lily, to the tablet, to my cheek. She didn't comment. She produced a clipboard from her bag, slid a protective plastic over the top sheet, and set a capped pen on it. 2 signatures, she said. Mum and Dad. She handed the page to Daniel. He took the pen like it was heavier than his palm could bear, and signed. He passed the clipboard to Marissa. Her hand hovered. The gold knot bracelet sat on her wrist like a promise and a trap. She signed. The woman smiled with apologetic efficiency, tucked the clipboard away, offered a happy Thanksgiving, and left. The door closed. The Rain's voice was louder now, confident. So, Daniel said quietly, no one's taking Lily anywhere. He looked at me with an apology spiraling up behind his pupils. And why did you go into Mum's house? Marissa straightened her spine like a ruler. Because she had papers, because that envelope is mine, I said, the words jumping out before I could check them. Marissa's head snapped toward me. Yours? Yes, I said, and felt the next turn in the path reveal itself like a bend in a river. There is a twist in every family story, the part you didn't know you were standing on. I did keep a manila envelope in that drawer under the towels. It has copies of the original deed to Daniel's house and a letter your mother gave me before she passed. I kept it there because my safe is jammed and because thieves don't often look beneath dish towels. When I lost it today, I assumed I'd moved it months ago and forgotten. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to accuse. I let the last word rest in the air and behave itself. Daniel's lips parted. The original deed? And the letter, I said. About the loan your mother gave you when you were starting the roofing business. About how we agreed the first years of mortgage here would be treated as repayment. It's all there, signed, stamped. I looked at Marissa. None of it is about Lily. She stared at me as if the floor had just shifted under her chair. I watched the algebra of fear and calculation move across her face. So you... She stopped, tried again. You kept proof that this house isn't entirely... It is Daniel's, I said gently. But it is not yours to dangle like a leash. That's not how we built it. The overhead light buzzed so loud it was almost comic. The candle nearest the window burned low, the wax a small lake within its glass shore. Where is the envelope now? Daniel asked. In her tote, Lily said, voice no louder than rain on a leaf. Marissa's jaw clenched. You are a child. You didn't see... I did, Lily said, and her eyes did something I wish they didn't have to do at 11. They hardened. Before we got in the car, you dropped your keys. I picked them up. The tote was open. The corner said deed. He stepped toward his wife. He didn't raise his voice. Give it to me. She backed away a fraction, then another. Daniel, give it to me. I watched a dozen Thanksgivings crease themselves and slip through Daniel's face. His first with me after his father died. The year he burned the green bean casserole and we ate it anyway. The one where Lily learned to decorate pies with leaves and acorns from cookie cutters. All that time he was practicing how to be a person who believed the truth, even when it cost him. Marissa moved her hand like she might reach into the tote, then stopped. You're going to let her ruin us, she whispered, and the word ruin came out raw and young, like it was cut from a place far behind her elegant mask. I stood. Calm is a muscle. You can hold it only so long before it trembles. No one is ruining anything tonight, I said softly, but I am not staying in a room where my skin is fair game. The rain had found its rhythm now, constant, firm, not angry. I picked up the pie dish and the foil-wrapped carrots and the little gift bag with the embroidered towels. Daniel watched, helpless and half-relieved, like a man who sees a fire door open and hates that it works. Mom, I'm going to go, I said, so no one says something they cannot fold back into their mouth tomorrow. Lily's eyes followed me as I moved to the foyer. I felt her attention like a small hand at my elbow, guiding without touching. I slipped on my coat and it remembered the shape of me. When I opened the door, the rain performed its gentle applause on the porch steps. It smelled like pennies and pine and the ghosts of summer. The cold met my cheek with a kiss that was almost medicinal. The night held itself in its shoulders, steady and grey. I took one step into it, then two. The motion lights along the path blinked awake, one after another, like they were telling me I existed with each small pool of brightness. At the car, I balanced the pie dish on my hip and popped the trunk. The hydraulic arm lifted with a sigh. I set the dish inside carefully so it wouldn't slide, wedged the carrots in beside it and tucked the towel gift bag in the corner where a spare blanket lay in a soft roll. The rain peppered the back of my neck and slid down, a cold line I could have traced if I'd had an extra hand. I leaned in further, reached for an old umbrella, the yellow one with daisies that always makes Lily laugh, and felt the damp night hold my ankles like a polite request. Somewhere, behind me through the door I had left ajar, voices rose and fell, not shouting, not yet, just the sound families make when words finally cost what they always should have. I pulled the umbrella free, the fabric unfurled with a satisfying whoop. I turned. Lily stood at the edge of the porch in the rain with her backpack on and her tablet pressed flat against her chest. The motion light above her buzzed and turned her hair into a thin halo of wet silver. She wasn't crying. She had the particular stillness kids find when they've made a decision bigger than they are. For a heartbeat, my heart forgot how to beat, then remembered and did it too hard. Lily, I said, the umbrella lowering a fraction. She stepped off the last dry board into the rain, came down the path without flinching at the cold, and stopped by the open trunk like a small soldier who has reached her destination. Her voice was soft, but it landed in me like a stone that knew its place. "Grandma," she said, "I'm coming with you." Lily's words hung in the damp air between us, so light and small you could almost mistake them for part of the rain. But my chest knew better. It was a declaration, the kind that reshapes the shape of a night. She stood there in her rain-speckled backpack, looking at me like this was not a request, not a game. Behind her, through the open door, I could still hear the muffled rumble of Daniel's and Marissa's voices, a back-and-forth pitched low but taut. I stepped toward her, holding the umbrella over both of us. "Sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice low, "this isn't the way to—" "I'm coming with you," she repeated, firmer now. "Not forever, just tonight." Her eyes flicked to the house, then back to me. "Please." I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to march her back inside and make the adults in that room untangle their knots right now. But I also knew the weight of a night where your safe place had been cracked open in front of you. "Does your dad know you're out here?" She shook her head. "He's busy." I glanced back at the doorway. Daniel's silhouette moved past the hall light. Marissa's voice spiked in frustration, then dropped again. I'd seen this pattern before. It could go on for hours. The rain found a rhythm on the umbrella fabric, a steady percussion urging me to decide. "Okay," I said finally, feeling the decision land in my gut. "Just tonight. We'll call your dad when we get there." Relief broke across her face so quickly it made my throat tight. She slid into the passenger seat, buckled herself in without a word. I set the pie dish on the floor between her feet, a ridiculous makeshift guardian. We drove through streets glossed with rain, the street lamps stretching long gold fingers over the wet asphalt. Lily stared out the window, tracing the rivers the drops made as they raced each other. "Grandma?" she said after a while, her voice smaller now. "I wasn't going to play the video unless she hit you." I looked at her profile, the set jaw that was Daniel's, the clear gaze that was mine. "I know," I said, "and I'm proud of you. But I'm sorry you had to be ready for that." She nodded, the kind of nod kids give when they understand more than you want them to. We reached my driveway, the motion lights blinking awake like they recognized us. Inside, the house smelled faintly of cinnamon and wool. I found her one of my old t-shirts to sleep in and set a blanket on the couch, but she trailed me into the kitchen instead. "Do you think Dad will be mad?" she asked, climbing onto a stool. "At me?" I set 2 mugs on the counter and poured hot chocolate, watching the steam rise. "He'll be worried. But no, he won't be mad." I hesitated. "And I think tonight might help him see things he's been trying not to." She wrapped her hands around the mug I slid to her, soaking in its heat. Outside, the rain softened to a mist, like the night was exhaling. I knew tomorrow would be full. Calls, explanations, maybe arguments. But for now, in the quiet kitchen, I let myself believe in the peace of small lights, warm mugs, and the knowledge that sometimes walking away, just for a night, isn't running. It's choosing where to stand. And tonight, we were standing together.